Welcome to Hoda's Career Info. I'm your host, Hoda Kilani, career and academic coach at Right Career Fit. Coaching is all about storytelling, helping you to envision and tell your story your way. I put this series together to share stories of inspiring career people from across the globe. I hope their stories motivate you to envision your career story, discover your road to success, or recast your career path. More importantly, I hope that you love these career stories as much as I do. Our guest today is the Financial Administrator of the Asia Pacific Career Development Association, Dr. Marilyn Maze.
If you can describe the day-to-day things that you really enjoy doing and say, that's what I want to do in my work, what do you suggest? AI will tell you. Be ready to pivot when a new opportunity comes around. Sometimes those opportunities come out of left field. Sometimes you don't know they're coming, and all of a sudden something knocks on your door and you go, oh yeah, that is something I could do. And that would be great. And it would be fun. And that's when you want to say yes.
Thank you for listening to Hoda's Career Info, your career program where guests from across the globe share career tips and personal stories to help you successfully navigate your career. Watch, listen, and learn. Remember to like, subscribe, share, and follow me on social media for more career info. Most importantly, make sure you have that very important career conversation with a career professional. Our guest today is Dr. Marilyn Maze, who is the Financial Administrator of the Asia Pacific Career Development Association, APCDA. In her previous role as Executive Director of APCDA, Dr. Marilyn organized the annual APCDA Conference since its inception. She has conducted numerous research projects on significant labor market and career counseling issues and presented at various international conferences. Dr. Maze is a fellow of the National Career Development Association, NCDA, and she received their Eminent Career Award in 2022, NCDA's President's Award in 2016, and NCDA's Credentialing Commission Service Award in 2016. She received the Lifetime Achievement Award from the Maryland Career Development Association in 2010. Dr. Maze formerly developed the ACT profile, previously called Discover. Join me, and together let's increase our career literacy with Dr. Maze's experience. Welcome, Dr. Marilyn Maze, to Hoda's Career Info. I really appreciate your time today, and I want to thank you for giving me the privilege to talk to you.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
Right away, Dr. Marilyn, the first question I ask every guest is, what is the one term that describes the work that you do, and how would you define it from your perspective?
I'm going to be difficult and give you two. I'm sorry. I did a career pivot in the middle of my career, and so it's hard. The first term is computerized career exploration. And what that means is that especially for young people, there's a lot of occupational titles out there and they don't really know what they do and they don't know where to start. I mean, you can't just read them all. It's a lot. There's hundreds. And so what would be suitable? And that means usually an interest inventory or a values inventory or an ability inventory, something like that. And then putting that information together, suggesting titles of occupations, and then information about those occupations and what you might have to study as a major. And then if you're going to major in something, what kind of school would you go to? So all of that information packed into one program is it's a major it's what I spent most of my life doing. And the idea is that a human being, a career counselor, can't pull thousands of titles out of their head and just come up with the best 10 that matches a human being, but a computer can. That's just not a challenge for a computer, especially the modern ones. So it really makes a lot of sense to do computerized career exploration, and I spent 40 years doing that. And then the second part of my career, I would say, is more organizational development. My goal now is to have an organization which is constantly developing and changing and meeting the needs of our members. And so I'm always looking at how I can improve and how I can meet more needs for more people.
Thank you for these two terms. So I'm going to take you back to the first term. Can you tell me more about what is happening in this computerized?
Right. So my first challenge, and the thing that really excited me, was that challenge of trying to sort through thousands of occupations and figure out which ones to suggest for the client in front of you. And so I spent a lot of time figuring out which questions to ask. I had software called Career Finder, which was from a long time ago. It ran on an Apple II, which is probably something most people haven't heard about, even, I mean, today don't even know about. But very rudimentary, very simple, but it would sort very quickly through occupations and look for ones that matched based on the criteria that I thought was important. And that included things like how you dress when you go to work. I mean, some people want to look nice. Other people don't care at all. And some people actually like to have the same clothes every day, so they don't even have to think about it. That's a simple question, but it really cuts the occupations down when you think about it, you know? Of course, there's also many other things: how much you want to make, how much you want to go to school, what interests do you have, what are the things you'd like to do in your life. But some of those questions are hard. But something like, what do you want to wear when you go to work, is probably quite easy for most people to answer. So that's what I was looking for, the quick and easy ones. And then we get into things like personality types and other factors that are really important when you pick an occupation. And so I actually went through several different kinds of assessments that would list occupations, and then tested them with clients and asked them, did this give you a good list? Does it sound reasonable? Is that what you're interested in? And I kept working and working to make that better. And like I said, I worked for 40 years. And now I would say, just ask AI. If you can describe yourself, and specifically what I found in my research is describe the things you like to do every day. If you can describe the day-to-day things that you really enjoy doing and say, that's what I want to do in my work, what do you suggest? AI will tell you, because it's trained to go out and look for all these different occupations, find their job descriptions, and figure out what traits or what jobs or what tasks, what little tiny work tasks those people would be doing all day long. And once it finds that, it can suggest things.
This is very exciting, and I suggest everybody should check it out and try to have a conversation and get back to us with their feedback on how they felt with the responses that they were given. I love it. I'm going to jump to the next question that I have prepared for you, Dr. Marilyn, and it's about your personal story. Do you mind sharing with the audience your personal story, and perhaps, if possible, embed with it a lesson that you learned along the way?
Sure. When I was in 8th grade, I took a class in career planning, and I decided I wanted to be a teacher or a writer or a mathematician. And that's because math was the subject I was best in when I was in high school. So I graduated college with a bachelor's in mathematics and a teaching credential. And I started teaching, but my first job was in the Peace Corps. So I was in the Philippines teaching, and being in a different environment, a really different environment, was actually the most stimulating part of the job. So although I was teaching math and that was fine, I mean, I like that. Um, it was learning to know a new place and learning to know how differently people could see the world. You know, in in the US at that time, when I wanted to wax the floor, I would pour some wax on the floor and push it around with a cloth. But in the Philippines, you pour the wax on a coconut husk and you push it around with your foot. So everything is different. Everything is different. And it's just amazing how your life can be different. I mean, how different your values and your needs and your desires can be when you live in the Philippines and you have, those constraints to live in, that environment to live in. Then I came back to this country and I was then decided I was tired of solving math problems and I wanted to solve people problems. So I went back and got a master's degree in career counseling. And while I was doing that, I thought, you know, my first job out of college was writing programs. I was a I was a computer programmer. And I've got that skill. Nobody else in this field, in this counseling field, had that skill. It was very strange for them to look at my background and say, you want to be a counselor, with computer programming background. And I thought, what can I do to use my background in some way that will be helpful in this field? And it just seemed like working with computerized career planning was the thing I had that was special. So immediately when I got out of school, I started looking for jobs that would work with that specialty. And I worked for different companies that provided software for students who are still in high school or in college and were trying to find their next, like a major and then a school that they could go to or next job. And we talked about, job search and all of that was on the computer. I got hired by the company in the US, which is the biggest company to do that kind of work. And that was ACT. And it's still, I think, a company in the US that offers college entrance tests, although COVID changed a lot of things and I know greatly impacted that company. But I worked there for 25 years and was very proud of what I did because over 1 million students took that software program every year, and it helped them to think about their careers, to think about all the aspects of themselves that were important to them, and then which occupations would best match their personality and their needs. So I felt like that was really wonderful. And then ACT decided it was no longer in that business, that its business was college entrance tests and not computerized career planning. So they said goodbye. And at that point, I decided to work with my friend who had invited me to help her start the Asia Pacific Career Development Association. And her vision was that there are many, many countries in Asia that are side by side, but they don't speak to each other. And they don't really know that they're all trying to solve similar problems. And their clients aren't that different either. She was from Korea and she had visited Taiwan, which of course has a Chinese background. And then there was also people in Japan, all of those with a very, very similar culture and similar needs and similar ways of going about finding jobs, but they didn't really talk. And she said, that's what we need. We need an organization that pulls us all together. And because of my background in the Philippines, I totally agreed. I thought that would be wonderful. And so I said yes. And I'm definitely going to do this until I can't anymore.
I'm glad you're still doing it, and I'm glad you're working still in the field for sure. Is there a message that you'd like to tell us when you think back on your story that you think, okay, this is a lesson I learned and I'd like everyone to reflect on it?
Well, again, I'm going to be difficult, give you two. The first lesson was find what's unique about your skills and your personality, and that you can be proud of your contribution. So figure out what it is that you can do, maybe a little better than most people, and that makes you feel proud about what you've accomplished. The second thing is to be ready to pivot when a new opportunity comes around. One of the things about occupations is we don't sit in a vacuum and say, I want to do X. We live in the real world and we have to find a job that will pay our salary and will allow us to live a comfortable life that will do the kinds of things we want to do. And sometimes those opportunities come out of left field. Sometimes you don't know they're coming, and all of a sudden something knocks on your door and you go, oh yeah, that is something I could do. And that would be great. And it would be fun. And that's when you want to say yes.
These are two wonderful messages, Dr. Marilyn, and I appreciate them. Now, you've been working in the field, writing articles, books, presenting, leading several career development associations, and probably have been in the field for many years. We won't say how many.
That's okay. I've been in the field for over 50 years.
So I would really appreciate your insightful input on, have you seen any major changes that make you say, well, we as a field have moved in the right direction?
You know, working in the Asia Pacific Career Development Association, I work with 22 different countries, and it's amazing to see countries which are going through things that we went through 20 or 30 years ago. And some countries, maybe even a little before that. In this country, we trace our history back to Frank Parkinson in 1904, I think, but I'm not sure. I think that's right. And but we say we've 100-year anniversary was 1913, so I guess that's when he published his first book. But that kind of career planning, in which a human being interviewed somebody, talked to them about what was really interesting to them, and then help them to find occupations that would let them do that. That kind of career planning is still alive, but it's changed so much. We do things so differently now. We use technology really well, and I think technology has helped our field immensely. So comparing what we do here and comparing the concept that Americans have, that if you want to get help with your career, go talk to a career counselor. I mean, most people think that way. Most people know what a career counselor is, and they're not afraid of them. But in some countries, it's like, oh, I don't need a counselor. I'm not sick. And you don't want to admit that maybe you need a little help because you don't know everything about the world of work. I mean, this is nothing to be ashamed of. Of course you don't. Nobody does. Even people who've worked for as long as I have don't know everything about the world of work. And if you want to look into different things and things that are different from your experience, you really need somebody who has experience in the new fields and the different areas. So when I look at, I look around our country where everybody's comfortable doing that and going and asking for help. And one of the things we talk about here is always network. Find people who do what you want to do and go talk to them, and then I look at other countries where they're not doing that. And I really am proud of how much we've done, but it makes me aware of how much we have to offer in terms of helping other people get themselves up to speed and get them to that same position too. Another thing that I've seen is how much technology has changed the workplace. I did this exercise at a conference in Japan recently. I asked people to think about their cell phone. Whoops, my camera's not going to work. But how many different tasks do you accomplish with your cell phone? Now, I know for myself, being in the older generation, when I got my cell phone, it wasn't to make phone calls. It was because of the GPS, the maps that would let me go where I wanted to go. And I also, the very first software I used was the calendar, because I wanted to remember my appointments. And so those two tools were what first got me onto a cell phone. And in fact, several of my friends had prior things, a BlackBerry or a device which just had a calendar in it, because these are useful. And I think now we couldn't live without our cell phones. So think how much technology has done to change us. One of the things people always say is, pretty soon they're not going to need people. There won't be any jobs left because the computer's going to do it all. But just like my cell phone does not make my life calmer and does not make me have more time, I constantly find new uses for my cell phone and new information that I want to explore on the internet. But I don't have more time now, and I am not unemployed. And I can tell you, after 50 years in this field, that's not going to happen. because human beings can always think of more things they want to do with the technology as a guide, as an aid. And there will always be a need for human beings, but the technology is wonderful. It has just changed so many things and how we do things and how we use our time that it's pretty amazing.
I'm so glad you brought out the technology and how it could potentially take everyone's job. It's definitely a question on many, many people I work with, and that's how do I prepare for the future and if technology is going to take away this role.
In 1970, I was on panels that debated that question. Can you imagine how long ago that
Wow,
was? Yeah,
that was a
right.
long time ago. But
And
it
we're
seems
still
like,
debating the same question, and the answer is still the same. It's not going to make a difference. Don't worry about it. But what does
thank
make
you.
a difference is how you do your job, obviously. I mean, nowadays everybody uses a computer. So somebody who says, well, I'm a secretary, but I will not use a computer. It's like, okay, I'm sorry, but I'm not going to hire you because you have to use a computer to be a secretary, you know? Only now we call those people admins, and word processing actually improves our grammar and our spelling for us, so we don't have to have, our skills don't have to be quite as strong in some of those areas. But that means that we're free up to actually write letters and to communicate with each other and try to make our point more clear to each other. So it frees us up to do what we really should be doing anyway.
It's definitely a positive spin on it. We really need to talk more about it because what's on a lot of people's mind is what's going to happen with the new technology.
And I will say too that some of the software I wrote back in the 1980s is no longer needed because AI has taken that need away. So there are companies which are going to go out of business, and I'm sorry, but that is technology. Some people lose their jobs, some jobs just go away, and that's painful. But other jobs are created, and there's always a need for somebody who can adapt, and that's the major thing that we need in this time is to be able to adapt to new technology.
And that's a great conversation that I think we can continue to talk about a lot if we wanted to dig deeper. But I want to take you back to our field and what you have been doing in it is that you've been involved with the Asia Pacific Career Development Association, also known as APCDA. You've been involved in it for some time, previously in your role as Executive Director, and now you're APCDA's Financial Administrator. You mentioned a little bit on how it started, and so that was cool. Can you tell us how long ago it started, the location, who should join, anything else you think that would be worthy for people listening in and say, oh, this might be the association for me?
Like I said before, my person who started this in my mind was a Korean American who was a friend from my work in my doctorate, and we were together at the conference for the National Career Development Association, which is an American group, and there were a whole table full of us saying, yes, we need to do this, let's do this, and that was 2010. And for a while, we weren't quite sure what we were doing. So in 2011, we debated what we should call ourselves and exactly what name we should choose on the internet. And in 2012, we incorporated and became a corporation. Now, it may sound like it takes a lot of time, but it really does take a lot of time. And we created a structure that was based on, quite frankly, the American version, the National Career Development Association. So we copied a lot of things. And I actually joined the board of NCDA. So I was the treasurer there for 3 years so that I learned how NCDA did it and where the money came from, right? How do you make ends meet with this new association? And then now it's still going on, and we're trying to develop in many new ways. We work with about 22 different countries, and our goal is to recognize the uniqueness of every country. And the thing that keeps me excited about this work is the cross-cultural skills. When I'm working with somebody from a country that is very foreign to me that I don't know much about, I have to be very careful because I can very easily assume things based on my American bias. It's not right. And it's important to listen carefully for the nuances that tell me, oh, that's not really what that person said. They're looking at it from a different perspective. And then to respectfully investigate what they meant and what they were really thinking, because I do want to respect everybody's culture. I don't want to act like my culture is better or something. I don't even believe that. I believe that the US has plenty of problems, and we can learn from each other. And I think it's going to take the whole world to save this planet. I think we've got enough challenges right now. We really, really, really need to work together. And so I'm very excited about learning to work with other people in other countries and understanding the differences, the nuances, the way people are different, and the way we can work together and build on each other's strengths.
Thank you. I did attend the last conference and I was amazed, like you said, just to compare the culture look on things and how things grow. That was a very good learning experience for me. So I definitely encourage people to check it out, no matter where you live, if you're interested in that global perspective of career development, for sure. We've come to the final question, Dr. Marilyn, and I know you like working with young people as well, and I do. And I always recommend that they always step out of their comfort zone, embrace challenges. So just to give them an idea of what challenges can look like, what are some of that challenges you're looking to take on now or perhaps in the near future? I know you're going to keep working, so.
Yes, indeed. Well, when I looked at, we just asked people what did they want to change. And what I was amazed at was that what I'm looking for, of course, is like the same change being suggested over and over. But most of them are just one person suggesting one idea. And then I'm thinking, okay, there's a lot of good ideas in there that are just one things, just one person suggesting it. And which way do we go? There's probably 50 suggestions about wonderful things we could do, but we don't have the energy and time to do all of those things. And so how do we both stay focused on our what I call meat and potatoes, the usual part of our business? What we normally do is offer webinars and a conference every year. And just those things take a lot of time and a lot of energy. So we're kind of staffed to do those things, but these extra things are like exciting and we'd love to do them too, but I just don't know what's realistic and where to go with that. And of course, I'm going to consult my board and find out. Luckily, we have people from all over our area, so many different countries, giving me their perspective on what they think are the most exciting new ideas. And we'll see where we go.
This is very, very good news. And thank you so much for your time and for the time that you're still putting in the work and in the field.
Thank you.
These were all the questions I prepared for you, Dr. Marilyn. Was there anything else you'd like to talk about that I didn't ask you about, or a message that you'd like to end the episode with?
No, I can't think of anything. I just hope that as many people as possible can find careers that were as rewarding as mine has been. I always feel like I'm making a difference in people's lives. And of course, as a career counselor, the way you make a difference is by helping people think about who they are and kind of put all that together so that they feel comfortable moving forward. But then as working with the APCDA, I'm making a difference in countries' lives in a sense by helping associations to move forward, associations to form in each country so that more people are doing career counseling in those countries and getting the skills related to career counseling to be more widespread in the world. So there's just challenges on top of challenges. It's exciting. It's fun.
Thank you so much for your time.
I hope everybody finds that in their careers because I think that's what makes life very interesting.
That's it for Hoda's Career Info, the program where career professionals from across the globe join me to empower you to succeed. Our guest today on Hoda's Career Info was Dr. Marilyn Maze. You can connect with Dr. Maze on LinkedIn. Dr. Maze shared many useful career tips from which we all can benefit. One tip that stood out for me was when she suggested that we should just ask AI during our job exploration. Do you use AI in your career exploration? Remember that you can watch Hoda's career info on YouTube and listen to the episode on your favorite podcast app. To let me know if you are interested in an opportunity to talk about your work, you can send me a direct message on my website, rightcareerfit.com, where you can also sign up for my newsletter to stay up to date on the latest episodes. Please like, subscribe, share, and follow me on social media for more career info. I am your host, Hoda. Until next time, remember, your time is very precious. How are you spending it?